All right. Welcome, everybody. People are coming in fast and furiously. Welcome, welcome. Please see these housekeeping items while you're waiting. We're just going to wait another minute for folks as they're rushing in. Note that we are going to keep the chat closed during the session, but we are going to open it up for the Q&A at the end. And you can use, you can speak, or you can use the hand function then as well. So that's coming up toward the end. And Kevin Penalosa is here, our amazing parent coordinator. So he will welcome you. And I want our new and returning families really to focus on this season on our approach to rebounding from last year. And we're focusing on COVID safety policies, nuts and bolts, and on all those items are really coming in Kevin's emails. So keep an eye out for Kevin's emails as well as this session, which we'll be recording. Kevin, do you want to say hi to everybody?
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Penalosa. I'm the family coordinator at Bugs. As Susan said, I will be delivering a lot of news to you in the coming weeks. Please be just attentive to your emails as I send out information in the coming days and weeks as well before the first day of school. For our Spanish-speaking families, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Kevin Penalosa. Soy coordinador de familias de la escuela Bugs. Si tiene alguna pregunta, puede contactarme a mí directamente en español, o si tiene alguna pregunta en español, puede preguntarlo aquí también en esta sesión. Voy a poner en el chat mi información para que me contacte. I will also put my information in the chat as well to contact me. Thank you so much and enjoy the presentation.
Thanks so much, Kevin. So we will post this session on our website. It's being recorded right now. So if you missed any part of it, or those that joined late, or you know friends that joined late, please they can check that out later. And other information will continually be on our website to update you. And feedback is welcome on how best we can support you with all of this information as it unfolds. So you're going to be hearing from me a little bit. You're going to be hearing from our principal, Wynette, about the academic program and orientation, and then from Kay Tolson, who is the world's best COVID safety officer, as returning families know, and she'll be giving the most of the information about health and safety. Again, I'm Susan Tenner. I'm the executive director and co-founder for the school, and we're just really happy to have you with us tonight. Thanks for taking the time. We hope to answer all of those great questions that we got from you by email and in the form. So Kevin, let's go on to slide 3. And we'll overview the session for folks. So part 1 is going to be teaching and learning with Principal Wynette predominantly. Part 2 is we're going into Bugs COVID policy overviews. And part 3 will be the Q&A that I mentioned before. So the chat will open up later. We'd like everyone to focus on the content that we're delivering right now. And then we'd love to hear your questions at the end, either by putting it in the chat, raising your hand and asking us verbally. And you can also email us at any time. We're just really excited to welcome our new families. Welcome to Bugs, and also our returning families. Thanks again for your input. You guys helped create this presentation with the information from your forums and questions, and your feedback from last year as well. So thanks for taking the time. Our team is really looking forward to the coming year. We have a combination of relief and commitment and excitement. And we're also following a really close eye on the Delta variant and how it affects our children's health and safety. We learned a lot last year, and we look forward to applying those lessons to the year ahead. We do feel that the high vaccination rates among our students age 12 plus, and the staff is really encouraging. And we will keep an eye on the under 12 vaccination availability and eligibility as well. We heard a lot from last year. We learned a lot from last year, excuse me. And we're very committed to the transparency and trust building that as we share what we know, but also what we don't know for the 21-22 school year. And so you'll hear at this point, we don't have all the answers, but we have a lot of great thinking. We have plans, and we will tell you about them. And we will keep you and our families and our students and staff updated all along the way. So you have that strong commitment from us. So yes, please remember, those of you that are joining us late, this session will be posted on our website. If you joined late, it's being recorded. Please hold off on your questions until the end. And thank you so much again for being here. Thanks also to the PTA, the board, the reentry task force, and our amazing Bugs team who really helped us with this planning for the year ahead. And I just can't move forward without thanking all you parents and commending you for all the work that you've done on parenting and just really bearing the turns and twists and sustain them the best you can as you parent your amazing children. So let's move on to slide 4 with our vision. We feel at Bugs that now more than ever, our mission can really serve our kids' needs. We know that our students thrive when they can connect and they can engage with friends and teachers and the larger community. And the energy that we experienced as we reconvened last spring and the energy that we felt with our staff returning this year has really been inspiring. Back at Bugs this school year, you will be hearing about how we're making it so that all of our students will be able to safely work with classmates on real world challenges. So it's a big part of what we do here at Bugs, how to get outdoors for community action projects and field study research, and to participate in specials like PE, technology skills and design, and visual art for each grade, and the performing arts for 8th grade. All of these opportunities that positively impact our middle schoolers' academic success and their social emotional development. So you'll be hearing a lot more about our approach that we've always had and how we're really kicking that up next year to meet the needs of our students, both academic and social emotionally. We know that these are really look different for different kids. And our school-wide goal this year is to really tune into each individual student's needs and their diversity of needs. Many of you asked about how we were going to address learning loss and the social emotional trauma or developmental delays in some of your children. And we feel that we are really well positioned with our mission and model to do that. And we've been working on that a lot this summer. So Wynette will tell you more about how we will make this Bugs vision a reality. We've got a lot of programs and enhanced staffing that are targeted to help our kids rebound. We're using data a lot and our co-teaching models, which are very expanded to address learning loss and social emotional needs to ensure that our kids are ready for high school. And we'll show you more about how we will maintain a healthy and safe community that makes our students feel safe. That's really, of utmost importance to us. And we'll talk some more about how we align with the DOE when possible on processes and decision-making. We'll be really clear about those various policies and what that looks like. And you have our commitment to be as transparent and consistent with our communication as possible. So without further ado, let's move on to slide 5. We have a commitment to come back into the classroom and resuming 5-day-a-week in-person instruction. We believe we can do that safely. We had an incredible track record last year in doing that. There was no community transmission. Once we opened, we stayed open. We are also heeding, of course, the CDC guidance, which says that so long as and NICEAD's recent guidance. So as long as allowed by public health officials, schools should be open for in-person teaching and learning, and students should be in school. So that is what we are striving for and planning for. For the new school year, we plan to keep our kids safe by getting as many people around them who are eligible for vaccinations to be vaccinated. So making sure that everyone that surrounds your kids, as much as possible, those that are eligible, vaccinated. We commit to enhancing our testing protocols, and to keep everyone in our school masked right now is another key part of the mitigation strategy. and we'll talk more about that, until we have more and more people vaccinated, until we have our young children under 12 vaccinated and the Delta variant is under control, these mitigation strategies are really important. And I just want to impart on you that this care of our community that we're so committed to at Bugs, that vaccination is part of that care of our community. So as our returning families know, and as our new families will hear a lot, we have the CARES values at Bugs: community awareness, reach, exploration, student voice, and sustainability. And the C for community is that we're inclusive and we're interdependent, we're respectful and compassionate, and we're generous in serving others. And a key part of really engaging in our community is to take care of each other. And I urge you to get vaccinated and get your students over the age of 12 vaccinated too. We know that there's no vaccine available yet for our 6th graders who are under 12, but we are all as a community committed to doing what we can to keep those children and all of our children safe. So although we will cover the details about our various policies later, I just want to come out of the gate right here early and say that there are no opening criteria to be met to open, only the mandated mitigation strategies for our operation. Some of you asked, what are the circumstances that we would not be open? We would not open. And I will say we will not open if the governor told us that we couldn't, and or if the DOE decided not to. So you will see later that we are aligning with the DOE on this. This is highly unlikely that that not opening would happen, and we have no reason to think that this will happen. But I wanted to be upfront about the circumstances under which it could happen. And that is that the state says we can't, or the DOE is not. As we know, this is a very fluid situation, and your child's health and safety is really our top priority. So we will keep the communication up, but we also ask sort of for your patience and awareness that things are changing quickly sometimes. And so please know we are very committed to opening. Now let's begin with what that looks like for opening during the immediate future with orientation and the academic program to support your children. And Principal Winnett, who has been working feverishly all summer with the team on our summer plans, she's going to fill you in on what's important first and foremost, which is our educational foundation and approach, and the next few days in orientation in the coming weeks. So Winnett, take it away.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're so happy you can join us today. Let's talk a little bit about orientation. So we're very excited and super pumped to have kids in the building. We have our teacher leaders in this week, and we had the men part of last week doing a lot of planning. Some of them have chosen to even start being in the building right now, even though our meetings are virtual and they don't have to. They just want to get back in and feel like they're in school and getting ready for kids. So it's really exciting to see people coming in and ready to work. For the 6th grade, orientation will start on August 30th in the building, so in person orientation. The entire week will be in person, except for our incoming 7th and 8th graders on the 30th. Since there's such a small group of them and they're all in different cohorts, we are going to keep it virtual, so there isn't as much mixing, but they will come in on Tuesday and join their advisory groups in their cohorts. What cohorts will look like and advisories will look like is that, we will have our full cohorts. We are able to accommodate the 3 feet of space in most of our classrooms. So we will definitely have our full cohorts, and we will have our advisories be groups of students smaller groups of students from the same cohorts. So there's still some cohorting, but we did hear students and parents from last school year asking to meet new people. So the cohorts are different. They are mixed for returning students from what they were last year. So you will be in new cohorts if you are returning to Bugs from some of your friends from last year, allowing you to make new friends and branch out in your connections. So August 31st will be the first day that all students will be back in the building in person. So that is 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. During our orientation, students spend the days in their advisory groups. However, they will get an opportunity during this time to meet their teachers, all of their teachers, to meet some of the other staff at Bugs. Breakfast will be happening in the advisory classrooms. Again, we are taking every precaution to ensure everyone's safety in terms of spacing as much as we can. Lunch will also happen in classrooms for this week, parts of this week, and students will be escorted out of the building. Food is provided by school food. However, students are free to bring their own breakfast or bring their own lunches and have them at school, or we will provide a grab and go bag for them in the building. Next slide, please, Kevin. So orientation is all about belonging. We have a very strong goal to help kids understand that they belong at Bugs, that they belong in their cohort, that they belong in their class, in their advisory. It's all about belonging. It's about finding your place within this community, getting support, learning our systems and routines and procedures. So you'll find that orientation is not so strongly focused on the academic program and curriculum, but on building students' sense of belonging at Bugs in their groups, with their teachers, with their friends, and supporting them in just feeling that they are welcome in our space and that they are welcome with each other. Students will do team building activities. We will definitely be very strongly emphasizing our CARES values, which are community, awareness, reach, exploration, and student voice and sustainability. So all of this is being planned right now. Teachers and our leadership team are working together to create the space where students can feel like, again, they belong. Belonging is going to be a big deal. Just being who you are at Bugs, that is what we are after. It's been a long time since students have been in the building. Their teachers, for returning students, are really excited to see them. But for new students, the 6th grade team is always pumped and ready to go to welcome them, to teach them how to be a middle schooler, to work on all those skills they need to be successful in middle school. So this is the place that they should come in knowing that we already welcome them. And we're excited to see them. Next slide, please, Kevin. As I said before, very strong emphasis on team building. Some of that will be happening in the outdoors. We already have one of the days dedicated to field study. Throughout the year, we already have a field study day built into each month. So you will be receiving communication that includes a permission slip. And the permission slip will be for the entire year for you to sign off on field study that your child has permission to attend, or your children. And that does not mean that there won't be other field trips built into the year, but this is our field study program that we have planned to happen. You will also find in part of this that kids might be going back to the same place. This is not to say that it doesn't connect. They will be building on their knowledge and skills in those places, such as the park. Right now, we are limiting our exploration to places close to home, close to Bugs, because we are still working on what transportation for trips and things will look like, and what spaces are open to welcome in visitors. So you'll find that we'll spend a lot of time maybe at the zoo and the park, but it doesn't mean that kids will be repeating the things that they are doing over and over again. We are building on the knowledge that they acquire when they go to these places. So again, students will get to know our team, our teachers, and they will get to know a little taste of field study right at the start. We are working on strategies to help students develop their executive functioning skills and organization skills, because middle school for some is that first introduction to transitioning from period to period and class to class, where the teacher isn't coming to you, but you're going to them. That is some of what will be happening. So we are definitely focused on supporting kids in acquiring those skills for a good portion of the start of the school year. We'll be working to make sure that all the kids have the support and the resources that they need to be successful in middle school. And another strong focus is getting to know your kids in every aspect, every sense of the word, social, emotionally, academically. So part of orientation is doing some baseline assessments that will help teachers to plan strategically to meet their needs once we get into the academic curriculum. Next slide. Quick notes about orientation. So please, please, please read Kevin's emails. A lot of information will be coming to you about the schedule and the structure and what group your child might be in or what advisory your child might be in through those emails. It'll tell you how to check teacheries, to find this information, to prepare students for that first entry into school. So you will receive notices about advisory and advisors. This is not typically what we do, but with kids being out of school for so long and having staggered schedules and things like that, we want to be sure that kids are prepared. We do have to still do some social distancing, so having them have some of this information in advance will help them know where to go, feel comfortable, and ready. Kids are expected to come to school in their BUGS uniform. However, if you are in need of a loaner, please reach out and let us know. There can be backups with the uniform on Land's End, and some things are in back order. Students do not need to bring their personal laptops. We will be supplying students with laptops. We were able to supply every BUGS student last year with an individual laptop. Once we are done with our baseline assessments, you will see students start bringing those laptops home. The reason being that we have certain programs that they may need to access on the BUGS laptop. Where am I? Again, supply list is on the website. If you haven't seen it, please go to the website. A lot of our information will also be posted on the website for you. So, pay attention to the website, pay attention to your email. We will try not to overload you with emails, but a lot of information will be coming to you that way. And again, most of it may be coming from Kevin. Breakfast and lunch, as I said before, will be provided. That being said, kids can bring in their own meals. We will be phasing in the ability to go out to lunch. Some of you who were in meetings with us earlier in the summer may have heard us say that students will be able to go out to lunch. We do need your permission for that, and you will be getting that permission slip as well. But we will be phasing that process in. We want to teach kids how to be responsible outside of our building as well as inside of our building. So we will be doing some of that work to prepare them. Our team will be outside of BUGS to welcome and help direct students to classes, so you don't have to worry about that. We are preparing for every eventuality as much as we can. Next slide, Kevin. Okay, so some of our programming, as Susan mentioned, all of our core classes are co-taught. That allows for a great deal of differentiation. We have 3 teaching assistants that support in our reading and writing classes in order for us to provide focused attention to all of our students in that area. Teachers are going through a lot of professional development. Our teacher leaders started last week. All of our teachers will be returning on Wednesday for more professional development, some of which includes social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, building co-teaching skills, collaboration. That is a big part of our school-wide goal, intentional collaboration in order to meet our students' needs. Strategic use of technology. We heard a lot about the screen time, and while we still have to use technology because of social distancing, we will be very strategic. We are planning to do a lot of outdoor learning, utilize our gardens and any outdoor spaces available to us so that students are outside breathing fresh air, but also spending less time on screen, but still learning. We are going to be providing more push-in service in classrooms for students who need it. That is part of our goal, to keep things integrated in our ICT classrooms. We have our intervention program. This will be starting soon, date to be decided, and this is also based on our data that we collect on what students' needs are, both academically and from an executive functioning lens with organization and keeping up with the workload. We are providing SHSAT prep for 8th graders in the fall before the actual test in October. And we will start SHSAT prep for 7th graders in the spring. More details to come on that and what criteria your child needs to fall under to be able to participate in SHSAT prep. We do have a math and reading interventionist on staff to support students who need that additional help. Again, some of that may be pull out, but most of it we're hoping to have push into classrooms. I explained a little bit about the cohort and advisory structure. Kids will be in cohorts. Advisories will be made up of cohorts. So for example, if your child is in, let's say 601, 601 will have 2 advisory groups. It will be split into 2 smaller groups for advisories. Students will be transitioning from class to class and room to room as well. Homework for the start of the school year will be in reading class and math class specifically, as kids get used to our school and the workload and all of that. We will start adding on a little bit more homework in core classes. So you will find that students will get homework in reading, writing, math, social studies, and science as the year progresses, but initially reading and math. Next slide, please. All right, so here is our curriculum. We use Teachers College Reading and Writing Workshop. We use a variety of things such as the New York City Scope and Sequence for social studies. We do Math and Focus. We use the New York City Scope and Sequence for science, and we teach a living environments curriculum for 8th grade. We also have our sustainability foundation classes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and we have our enrichment program. So students have PE, Tech, Spanish, and Studio Art for enrichment in both 6th and 7th grade, and they have PE, Creative and Performing Arts, Spanish, and Studio Art in the 8th grade. We give students the opportunity to take Regents exams. All students are allowed or able to take the Living Environments Regents. That class is dedicated to Living Environments curriculum. Our math class is blended that allows students to learn the 8th grade math, but also to prepare for the Algebra Regents if they would like to take it, and they are ready to take it. So students can choose to take the Algebra Regents if they are ready to take it. So nothing much has changed in our curriculum. We really are looking forward to jumping right in with it, and our teachers are going to be having an entire week of curriculum planning next week to prepare to welcome kids and start their academic journey. Next slide, please, Kevin. Our sustainability program, we have some exciting stuff happening. We have hydroponics labs in all of our science classes that will be built into their curriculum. We have a great partnership with New York Farm to School Institute to build connections to food and food justice. We have expanded our compost program. We have our solar panel and STEM learning happening, and we are really excited to incorporate more community action projects across our curriculums this school year and get kids really digging in and getting involved in things that impact our community and problem solving, critical thinking across the board. Next slide, please, Kevin. All right, so I talked a little bit about field study. We will be maximizing the use of the outdoors as much as we can. Again, we had a great time going outdoors in the spring when we were able to just explore Prospect Park, go to the zoo and different places around the neighborhood. Kids really enjoyed that opportunity to mingle with each other, to focus on the work that they were doing with each other outside. We can't wait to get started and to show our new sixth graders what this is like for them. It is definitely always connected to curriculum. Teachers, we have an actual meeting set aside for planning our field study each week. Teachers collaborate on the things that they want to do and the curriculum that they want to address with our students outside and the activities that they will undertake once they go out into the outdoors. And this is a big deal. It takes a lot to plan, it takes a lot to execute, but we are dedicated to making it happen for our students. Like I said before, there's 1 day a week dedicated to field study in our calendar already, but we will also have field trips, which are a little different and maybe more aligned to specific content and content classes. And again, making the use of our outdoor learning spaces, our gardens. We are really invested in finding ways to utilize the outdoors so kids are not just sitting in classrooms all day long. Next slide, please, Kevin. Student support. So we have 2 guidance counselors on our team. Our guidance counselor, Ms. Anna Lee, who supervises our advisory programs, has been working this entire August with our Dean of School Culture, Dean Damian, in planning for welcoming kids back to school, in planning for meeting their needs, also working on training teachers, professional development throughout the school year for getting teachers where they need to be to support kids. We value your students and their feelings and what they may be going through, and we really want to make them know that they are a part of our community and we are here for them. So again, this is a safe space. We are dedicated to being the safe space for students. So we are busy planning and we are ready. Student orientation is the start. Advisory is there for them to have that go-to person to help them solve their problems. So any issues that students may be having in school, their advisor is the point person for them to help solve that problem. We have the house system that allows kids to mingle with kids from other grades in their houses and to just have some nice collaboration and team building time. We have our quiet time that will happen in advisory in the morning. And we have clubs. We value student voice. We value students taking initiative. So we have clubs that they can join if they would like to get their voice out there, to meet new people, to engage in what's happening in our community. So we're really looking forward to all of this. This is the way we function. It's really exciting to get back into it, and we can't wait. Next slide. Once again, before I hand you off to Susan, I want to say, please remember to check your emails. Pay attention to the ones coming from Kevin. They will give you a lot of information. From me, I want to say how excited and happy I am to welcome new sixth graders back into our building and our 7th and 8th graders. I can't wait to meet our kids and get to know them better. I missed all of that while we were out of school. And I wish you all the best for the coming school year. Look forward to seeing you. Susan?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wynette. I have to echo, yeah, we're so looking forward to meeting all of you. And I'll hopefully meet many of you at the PTA Welcome Picnic. So keep an eye out for those details and hope to see you there, as well as at drop off and pick up during orientation and beyond. I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody. So now we're going to launch into our health and safety protocols here. And Kay is going to be covering a lot, but I'm going to provide some context before we start. I do want you to know that our COVID-related policies, of course, are really oriented to open strong and to stay open. That's really, both those things are what we're always looking for with your child's health and safety really just being paramount. So let's go to slide 16, Kevin, next slide. We will be reviewing all of these policies, these COVID-related policies, in the next bunch of slides in more detail. But first, I guess I wanted to overview the context for the various policies and our decision-making process. So let's go to the next slide and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So Kevin, the COVID context for bugs policies, 17. Great, thank you. So we are prioritizing keeping students and teachers in school safely, and we are really looking a lot to DOE alignment around the COVID-related policies. We're doing this for a few reasons. We learned a lot last year, and some of the main reasons are for clarity of messaging with everyone, and for the resources simply that DOE has as a much larger system to research best practices and to implement them. So we are looking to them around that. And we also know that it helps our families who have students in a DOE and in, and with our school to have some more alignment around those policies. Now, there's a few issues here. One is the timing. We just want to mention, that we are open before the DOE, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. But that means that we need to open with these things in place, with these policies decided upon and in place. And that is before the DOE has opened or released many of its plans or policies. So we're going to be presenting these policies to you, knowing that some of them may change, and that some things we know and some things we don't know. Kay will outline that. But we're really basing our decisions on the NICED guidance that came out a few days ago, the CDC guidance that came out earlier this month. And as these DOE decisions come out, we may be pivoting, but we will explain our rationale for our policies as we face the absence of the DOE announcements now, and then also as we may evolve. So although we are striving for this alignment, for the reasons that I stated before, I just wanted to explain that our educational policies and our approach, much of what you heard Wynette talk about, are also things like opening earlier, or our professional development approach and commitment to our professional development days, are not aligned with the DOE. They are part of what makes bugs bugs. They are part of our charter. They're part of what is featured in our charter as our key design elements. So for example, we have a key design element for extended time for learning. In our charter, we have a key design element for professional learning community, which is why some of those things you see are not aligned with the DOE, which is when we start and the number of professional development days or which days. It is different, and that's what makes us a lab of innovation. It's our educational model. It's our mission. To provide this cutting edge sustainability curriculum to your young adolescent kids and so that those things will look different. So I just want to name that. I know that has come up before, and I just wanted to make that clear. That's where there's a little difference from the COVID related policies and that alignment that we're looking for. So let's go ahead to the next slide. I'm going to pass you off to Kay, who's going to walk you through the policies, starting with vaccination.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kay Tolson, as Susan mentioned, for those of you who don't know me. Kevin, I'm sorry, can we just go back to the prior slide really quickly? I want to do a little bit of level setting. And down at the bottom of that, nope. Yeah, that one, the context, the major guidance, just so you know very briefly, and I'm really conscious of time, and I'm going to say that I'm going to talk really fast, and because I have a lot that I want to get to, so forgive me. But as Susan said, this will be taped. You'll get the slide deck. You'll be able to review. So in the past 2 weeks, a lot has happened. The CDC put out new guidance on the 5th of August. So just, 11 days ago. Subsequently, a few days after that, the New York State Department of Health, who really is the person in the organization in charge of what schools are doing with regards to COVID, came out with a memo where they said, we will have no new guidance for you. And so every school system in the state picked their chins up off the floor and kept going. Subsequently, the NYSED, which is the New York State Education Department, on the 12th did come out with guidance, which is completely aligned with CDC. Now, there's a little bit of there's actually a mistake at on the last bullet point. It should say NYC DOE. The NYC DOE guidance for 21-22 with regards to COVID is still to come. We're still waiting on that. So I just want to kind of give you guys a little bit of backdrop about how fast this has all been moving, even in the past 2 weeks. It's pretty trite to say right now, but frankly, what is unchanging in all this is the fact of constant change. So, I just want you guys to sort of see, like, literally day by day, all these guidelines are changing, and we're really working hard to keep up and have spent many, many hours, not only in the past few weeks, but in the past 6 months, 18 months, figuring all this out, as I'm sure you can imagine. But we have to move forward with what we know right now. And so I will try to be really as clear as possible in these slides and to let you know where we are currently, acknowledging the incredible complexity that's involved here. But we are always trying to figure out how best to integrate new safety information into our policies and procedures, how to serve all the students safely, now coming back inside the building. And I'm just going to echo Wynette and Susan and say, I am thrilled to see your kids in person again, to have our staff community start to come back into the building, and to look forward to them being back next week. And so I really take my job seriously to help us all stay as safe as we possibly can right now. Okay, so let's jump into vaccination. I'm going to kind of review a lot of those bullet points that were a couple of slides back, with what we know right now, what we don't know, that kind of thing. So vaccinations. All student vaccination requirements are set by New York State. They're set on the state level everywhere, which means that until New York State requires any vaccine for students under 18, we can't do it either. We can't go rogue and do that. But if they ever do require the COVID vaccination for students, then we will have to as well. We will be required to, just like any other vaccination, like measles or what have you. Staff vaccinations, currently our requirements for staff vaccinations align with the DOE, which is that unvaccinated staff will be required to get tested weekly. Again, that could change. We'll see how that goes. We're going to be watching the DOE very closely. Cohorts and other operations, lunch groups, what have you, will not be separated according to vaccinated and unvaccinated students. But we will be gathering information on vaccination status of students, because that's going to could affect things like quarantine, testing, that kind of thing. We'll get into those details a little bit later. I will be sending you all an email this week with my little COVID to-do list and some action items that I'll be asking you to do. And one of them is to tell me what your child's vaccination status is. Obviously, we know, for example, 99% of the sixth graders aren't eligible because they're not 12 yet, but we have a mix in the school, so we're going to need to know. And just a little quick factoid about bugs. Right now, currently, 76% of our staff are fully or partially vaccinated, which compares to the best estimate of 60 to 65% of the DOE staff. That could be higher because of the way they collect their records. So we don't really know for sure, but we're at about 76%. And of course, we're always trying to get even higher. Okay, next slide, Kevin. Thanks. So then another layer in our COVID prevention strategies is, of course, testing, COVID testing, screening testing. There's two kinds, entry testing and regular screening testing. So right now I'm going to talk about entry testing. We are going to ask all students to be tested prior to their first day of school on the 30th or the 31st. That's going to be part of this email, all the details that you are probably instantly thinking of right now about that you want to know about that. I will send that to you this week, so you'll have plenty of time to plan for that. So students will be asked to test within 5 days prior to August 30th or 31st, or the first day that the child is coming back to school if for some reason you are going to miss those days. There's lots of external options right now. It's pretty easy to get tested in the city with a pretty quick turnaround. And I will have some of those resources for you. And I will be at the PTA picnic on August 26th and provide pool testing with our PCR saliva tests that we used last year with the Miramis Labs. So returning families and students will know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're planning to come to the picnic, that'll be an easy way. If you'd like to do that testing, you certainly can. Obviously, we know not everyone can make it. So we will be asking your child to get tested and have those results sent to Bugs, to me, prior to the first day of school. If you're traveling between now and August 30th, you should know that New York State doesn't have any travel restrictions or quarantine requirements currently. Other countries do. Obviously, while you're traveling, there may be restrictions, so you should investigate that for yourself. And again, look out for emails from me later this week. Just to level set, we don't expect the DOE to do entry testing. That seems pretty unwieldy for them. So this is an example of a policy where we're going to go above and beyond and do that entry testing. And we're just so you know, we're doing it for staff as well. They've been asked to do the same thing for re-entry next Wednesday when we are all back in the building. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about regular surveillance testing. So that is like weekly screening testing. Finally, charter schools are now able to participate in DOE testing for students. It was a huge legal battle. And so we are planning to utilize the DOE's testing program to its fullest, which we assume will not begin until sometime on or after September 13th, which is the first day of DOE school. But we don't know anything about the DOE testing plan for next year. So we are anxiously, can't even imagine how anxious I am to hear about this testing plan that we're going to be able to participate in. Once we hear what that is, we may decide to, again, go above and beyond and supplement the testing with Miramis or other testing. We need to wait and hear the plan until we decide what we're going to do. We may prioritize testing for unvaccinated students over vaccinated students. That's what the current CDC guidance is right now. Again, with the Delta variant, who knows if and when that might change. So again, we want to kind of like make the decisions as we can. But we really believe that COVID testing is a key part of opening strong, stopping the spread and transmission within the school, and keeping us open. And, you know, the CDC has been really clear on how important screening testing is. I wish that our governmental organizations would do a little bit more acknowledgement of how much it costs, but I'm just happy to get that DOE testing. So we're going to move forward with that and do the best we can. All right, next slide. So facilities, right? Those of you who are returning to Bugs, we're going to continue doing what we did last year. We have air purifiers in every classroom, as well as all offices and other rooms. We are going to continue to emphasize good ventilation and air circulation. I think one of the things we have found out over the course of this pandemic is how important that is. So we will keep windows open, especially now when it's beautiful outside. Doors will be open. We want as much outside air to circulate. We will also have those air purifiers working. The filters are still in really good shape. They're set to, they're actually, these purifiers are built for the amount of cubic footage we have, even more in some cases. So they really are able to help to purify that air constantly. We're disinfecting desks at the end of each day. And of course, good hand hygiene. Hand sanitizer is everywhere. And we will be asking kids to use it and to wash their hands when they go to the bathroom, and every other time we can get them to a sink and some water. Water fountains are have been turned off except for the part where you can stick your water bottle underneath. So I would encourage kids to bring water bottles to school, because we're turning off the part where you push the buttons. I'm sorry for my bad lingo on that. Okay, next slide. Daily health screenings. This is a change, right? So CDC and then New York State Ed Department has stopped recommending daily health and temperature screenings, and so we will not be conducting those daily health screenings. The DOE has not said what they will do in the 21-22 school year, so that if they do start those screenings back up again like they did last year, we will resume those. We are in building with 2 other DOE schools, and it's just something we'll need to do if they do them. But so far, the CDC and the State Ed Department has said we don't need to do it, and the DOE has said we should follow the CDC and the State Ed guidance right now while we're waiting for DOE updates. So that's what I know for now. We're not going to do it. I'll keep you posted. Next screen. But one detail on that. Even though we may not be doing the screenings, we're going to be watching your kids for symptoms, and you should too. If your kid is not feeling bad, keep them home. Whether they just have a sniffly nose or they've lost their sense of taste and smell, don't send them to school. Talk to your healthcare provider, consider getting them tested. That's vaccinated or unvaccinated. We know there's breakthrough infections with Delta. Okay, moving on. Morning arrival, we're all looking forward to that. It's one of my favorite parts of the school day and the school year, the first day of school. I have loved that since I was little, and I still do. So we would like to ask, at least during student orientation week, for all students to arrive by 8 a.m. We won't be doing that health screening most likely, but we will be collecting some of those entry test verifications. You're going to be able to send them to me ahead of time, but I'm anticipating some students will be showing up with them in the moment. We'll be checking that. We'll be showing the kids how to line up properly. So we're going to open the doors at 8:10 every day, but the first week, we'd like people to think about arriving by 8 to give everyone a little time to get used to our procedures. All of our 6th graders are new to bugs. Some of our 7th graders didn't come to the building at all last year. So they're new to this procedure. And we are going to line up by grade. Of course, everyone will have their masks on and will be socially distanced. 6th graders, you can see in the little graphic, will be, as you are walking into the bugs entrance, will be just to the left. 7th graders will be to the right, and if they need to, they will wrap around the corner to Prospect Park West, and 8th graders will be behind them. All the grades will be supervised, so if the 8th graders have to be around on Prospect Park West, out of sight line of the bugs entry, no worries. We will have staff members there with them to supervise them, to help them line up, to help them follow the procedures. And answer your questions. The first week of school, I know there's going to be a lot that people are wondering and not knowing, and it's okay. We'll all get in the building and we'll all have a great day that first day of school. All right, next slide. Masking. Seems like it should be an easy one, but it gets more complicated when you think about the details. But one thing that is very simple is that masks are required in all indoor school spaces, regardless of your vaccination status. So that's kind of like a blanket. We're all going to be wearing masks inside the building all the time. masking is one of the most important things we can do to keep our community safe. And we really, really do appreciate your help in reminding your students to wear these masks consistently and correctly, pulled up over their nose and mouth, as you know. And this is really particularly important indoors and when anytime physical distancing can't be maintained. And also in high COVID transmission areas, of which Brooklyn and in fact all of New York City is currently considered a high transmission area by the CDC. We will be requiring everyone to wear their masks during outdoor arrival and dismissal. And although the guidance is a little bit mixed on outdoor mask wearing, we as a school spend more time outdoors than many other schools. We have, field, as you've heard, we have field study, we have field trips, we will be doing recess, we will be going out for lunch, both supervised, and then when the kids are allowed to, in a less supervised situation during lunch. So there may be times that we ask students to wear their masks outdoors. I can't point to any one specific thing, but when social distancing won't be easily maintained, maybe they're all looking at a water sample together and their heads are going to be clustered, right? That's going to be a situation where they really should be wearing masks. And we're hoping that the DOE, again, gives us some guidance about outdoor masking. So we could update that policy. And so stay tuned for more information from that. Okay. Distancing. As CDC guidance is that students maintain 3 feet of space between each other, and staff and students maintain 6 feet of space between each other, and unvaccinated staff maintain 6 feet of space between each other, meaning then 3 feet of space between vaccinated staff, right? So there's a lot of distancing here. When bugs should be able to maintain, I shouldn't say should, we have measured and laid it out. We can maintain this distance in most of our classrooms based on the class size of 25 to 28 students. But there are a few circumstances and smaller classrooms where students may be less than 3 feet away from each other. As the CDC says, when it's not possible to maintain a physical distance of at least 3 feet, and I'm quoting here, such as when schools cannot fully reopen while maintaining these distances, it is especially important to layer multiple other prevention strategies such as screening, testing, and other things, which is what we will be doing. So for example, I'm just going to give one example. The tech classroom is the way it's set up. Most likely a cohort will not be able to maintain 3 feet distancing when they're all in there together. So there will be times that can't happen. We're of course going to maintain it as much as possible, and we can maintain it in almost all classrooms, but there are a few that we can't. So I think that's really important to be very clear about, and that the CDC has been very clear that distancing should not prevent us from opening full-time in person, and so we're not letting that happen. We're not going to let it prevent us from doing that and from giving your kids a safe experience and layering all these other things that I'm talking ad nauseum about. So that's why all this other stuff is really important, although it can seem very tedious, especially to kids after all this time. Okay, next slide. I'm going to let Susan tag team with me a little bit here. And I'm going to repeat the NICID guidance, which echoes the CDC guidance. So long as allowed by public health officials, schools should be open for in-person teaching and learning, and students should be in school. Do you want to say anything, Susan, or you want me to jump in with these bullets?
Sure, go ahead and jump in.
So we're going to open 5 days a week full-time unless our local or state health officials tell us we can't. And as Susan said, there is absolutely no indication that that's going to happen. Or if the DOE doesn't open on 9/13. Again, we have had no indication that will happen. We have no reason to think it will. In fact, as you may have read, the mayor is really full steam ahead. So I personally agree with him on that. So in line with the DOE and the mayor, we won't have any specific criteria for opening the schools, right? We are going to open unless there is a public health crisis that prevents it. But there are going to be closure policies. So the DOE had a closure grid last year that changed in April, which dictated, how many positive cases would close a classroom, how many positive cases would close a school or a building. So the DOE has instructed us not to pay attention, not to use that for this year. That's last year. They're going to change it. They haven't told us what they're changing it to yet. So we don't know yet what those closure policies will look like. So in the interim, if situations arise where we have someone with a positive COVID case, whether it's that gotten externally or from within the building, we will of course follow the New York City Department of Health instructions. As a COVID safety officer, one of the things I do when I get a positive reported case is, like, the first call I make is to them, is to tell them what's happening and to get guidance from them. So we will follow their instructions.
I just wanted to jump in, Kay, about where opening is maybe a little bit related to closing. When we were talking about a scenario where we're opening, and if for some reason we find out that the DOE is not opening, because we have this several week lag where we're opening and the DOE is not opening. If we hear that the DOE is not opening, that would also precipitate a close for us. So I just wanted to sort of mention, I'm hoping that will be very unlikely, but I just wanted to mention that to be super clear about that potentiality.
Yeah, that's an important detail and distinction. And just to hit briefly, we're going to get to a little bit more detail about this, but if there's a classroom or, heaven forbid, a school closure, we will pivot to remote learning, which those of you who were here last year know we did extremely well. So although we don't really want to have to do it, if we must, we will rock it out. Next slide. Quarantines, fun. Again, I'm going to notify the DOH as required about any positive cases and follow their guidance about quarantine and isolation. You can find a lot of information online about what the CDC recommends, which is what the New York State and the New York City Department of Health is currently following pretty much 100%, which is that fully vaccinated people do not need to quarantine after exposure to a positive case unless they have symptoms. A side note is that if you are exposed and you're fully vaccinated, you should get tested 3 to 5 days after your exposure. And of course, if you start having symptoms, which you should keep your eye on for, see your doctor, isolate, assume you have COVID, and move forward accordingly. Unvaccinated people, which of course is a good bit of our population, given that many of our students are not 12 yet, do have to quarantine if they're determined to be a close contact. And of course, anyone who is infected with COVID, whether they're vaccinated or not, will have to isolate for the recommended amount of time. So that's non-negotiable. That doesn't have anything to do with your vaccination status. And of course, there are people who are vaccinated who are getting COVID, so it could happen. All right, next slide. Remote learning in 21-22. Wynette, did you want to jump in and talk a little bit about this?
Sure. We will be providing remote learning in the event that someone has been informed that they need to quarantine. That is the only time that we will be providing remote learning. So if COVID tests are done in the classroom, and Kay can definitely say more about this part than I can, but if the tests are done and we learn that someone or a group of kids or a group of people have been exposed, then they may be asked to quarantine at home, and then we will provide an opportunity for simulcasting. What that means is the students can log on from home to an online Google Meet that will be in their calendar. So we are asking teachers to create Google Meets. So in the eventuality that we have to do this, students have the meet in their calendar and they can log on and still learn from home. If for any reason you choose to not send your child to school, if others in their cohort need to quarantine, that is considered an absence. Why? Because your child still has the opportunity, because they are not considered a close contact, they have the opportunity to come to school and learn in person. Now, they can still log on, which is great, to learn from home, but because they are not considered close contact and they are not required to quarantine, it will be considered an absence. So just to repeat, we're not offering a remote option unless a child or a group of children are required to quarantine. Then teachers will simulcast their lesson to the kids who are outside of the building, but they will be teaching directly to the kids who are in the classroom. That's it.
Thanks. Meals. So as Wynette mentioned earlier, during orientation, students will be eating in their advisory groups, and they will be taken outside at lunchtime by their advisors, supervised, to so that they have a process. We have a process for getting all the students, but especially the 6th graders who are new to bugs, acclimated to the neighborhood and going out safely at lunchtime. We will have bug staff outside the Bishop Ford building and on Prospect Park West, helping to make sure that everyone, knows the proper procedures and protocols and knows what to do and is supported in that. After orientation, once we have permission, we won't ever send a student out alone, unsupervised for lunch until we have your permission to do that. But after orientation, students will be allowed to go out for lunch every day. If they like, they can always stay and eat lunch at school. And in either case, they can bring their lunch from home, or we will have grab and go lunches if they are going out for lunch, but they don't have a lunch that they brought with them or don't want to get something in one of the area places to eat. One thing to note right now is a little bit more of uncertainty. Right now, the cafeteria and the recess yard are under construction. At least they are telling us that it will probably be done by the first day of DOE school on September 13th. But you never know with the DOE. So we won't have access at all to either of those spaces during orientation week or September 9th or 10th. So that's part of what's happening during where the kids will stay in advisory. They'll have lunch, they'll be taken out, they'll be sort of, shown and supported how to go out for lunch properly. For those of you that are coming back to bugs, we did a similar thing with the 8th graders last year. If all this seems kind of confusing and overwhelming, it's okay. I've given you a lot of information. Please be assured there will be plenty of guidance coming. And I will be sending you lots of information, as Wynette said, Kevin will as well. We will try not to overwhelm you, but you can always reach out to me if you have questions. I've got a new fancy email address, covid@bugsbrooklyn.org, very catchy. So if you have something specific, or you can email me directly at k.tolson@bugsbrooklyn.org. I'm pretty easy to find. I think that's all for me. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to this. I know we can do it safely. And yeah, I'm raring to go, and I'm raring to find out what the DOE is doing so we can get busy. Thank you all. And I think I'm going to turn this nuts and bolts over to Wynette.
Thank you, Kay. So we have a full-time nurse in the building. We love her, Nurse John. She's wonderful. We will be introducing lockers later on in the school year, not right away. We want to make sure we have all the other routines and procedures down before we start introducing lockers. Since students, I'm going to jump ahead to a couple other things that connects to the locker usage. Since students will be carrying their own individual materials, they will not be sharing. They do not really need to go to the lockers until they have coats and outdoor wear to put away. So that is why we are going to hold off on the locker usage for a while. Uniform, as I said earlier in the presentation, are expected for all students. We are back in the building, full on, uniforms are a part of that, uniforms are expected. If you are having any issues with attaining school uniforms, please reach out to Kevin Penalosa, our family coordinator, or the Office of Student Affairs, and they will be able to help you get a loaner and so on. Laptops will be assigned by the week of September 13th after our baseline assessments have been completed. Again, our focus is on homework in the core subjects for the beginning of the school year in reading and math. So students should be reading every day. That is the way they build their reading stamina, vocabulary, comprehension, all the rest of it. You need to practice. Reading is fundamental. So we're going to do that. Also, math skills, you really need to practice in order to get better. So reading and math are the things we're going to focus on at the start of school year. Students will receive Metrocards at the start of the first week of school. So look out for those. We are occasionally able to replace Metrocards, but this is the start of building responsibility. So please encourage them to figure out a system to keep their Metrocards protected so they are always able to get to and from school and be safe and not feel stranded, because sometimes when they leave for the day, they don't have a Metrocard, there's no one at school for them to come back and get one. So if your child needs a Metrocard, we are asking you to teach them how to keep it safe and not lose it. Cohorts will transition from class to class. Students may go out to lunch once we have your permission and we have had a chance to teach them how to do so safely in an organized way and in a responsible way. The school day starts at 8:10, the doors open at 8:10, but as Kay said, for our first week of orientation, there are a few logistics that we need to take care of, so 8 o'clock is requested. Our school day ends at 2:45. Sometime in the near future, if your child is a child who is identified as needing intervention, you will receive an email inviting your child to intervention. If your child is not invited to intervention, it is because they are not in need of intervention. SHSATs is also something that will happen between 2:45 and probably 3:45, since it will be an hour long. That is a different situation than the intervention program. Intervention is 30 minutes. Research has said 30 minutes, 5 days a week is needed for intervention to work. Bugs calendar, it is available to you at, excuse me, at www.bugsbrooklyn.org. So that is all I have for you today, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Susan. Oh, is this me as well? Sorry.
Actually, that is Kevin. I think.
Oh, Kevin. Yay.
Jump in with these last couple things. And thank you so much, everyone, for hanging on. We do hope those of you that still haven't had your questions answered that you'll stick with us. Kevin's just got another minute to go, and then we will open up the chat. So thanks to everyone for coming.
Hello, just a quick snapshot of the month of September. Please remember to complete the school meal form that I sent out in my last 2 newsletters. It's very critical to our funding. And as I mentioned in my last newsletter, if completed and if you qualify for free and reduced price lunch, then your field study dues are waived if you qualify. Please also remember that your students' summer assignments are due September 9th. There's a Pta meeting for the 14th of September. We'll give you more details on that. The PTA will give you more details on that, and I will also back them up in their details. After school will begin the week of the 20th, the week of September 20th to the 24th. If you have any other questions about after school, please email afterschool@bugsbroken.org. Our first field study is September 24th, and curriculum night is September 29th. And just a reminder that August 26th, from 5 to 7:30 is our PTA welcome picnic. Prospect Park at 15th Street entrance, so Barber Pritchard Square. There's one last thing I would like to say about that Wynette brought up, which is Principal Wynette, is the student Metrocards. Nobody has to fill out a form. The eligibility is determined by the DOE and Office of Pupil Transportation, so the OPT office. So please do not worry about that. That's determined by them, and you'll find out a student, it's a system will let me know, flag me in the school if a student is eligible for a Metrocard or not. Thank you so much.
Great. So you can go ahead and those of you who have not had your questions answered and want to ask them now, you can use the chat. Thank you, Evan. You can use the raise your hand function. Either way, Susan Baxt and Kay will be moderating the chat and the hand raising respectively and kind of alternating. So let's jump in. And those of you who need to go, thank you so much for being here. And you can always email Kevin Penalosa or Kay if it's around a COVID-related issue at any time. Thank you.
Let's start with Evan, who raised his hand, and Susan and I will try to put some easy answers to some of these questions that are popping up in the chat in the meantime.
Hi, I'm Evan's daughter, and I was wondering if there is a basketball team or if there's any sports involved.
We have a lot. Hi. I apologize if I call you by your wrong name because I'm just going by however you're logged in. But we have a lot of sports in our after-school program. In the past, we have had more than one basketball team because we have had so many kids who wanted to play basketball. So it varies from year to year depending on the kids and the teachers. But yes, we do have sports, and we almost always have basketball.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And
my daughter also played on the girls' basketball team, so we definitely had that.
And then Angela also has her hand up. Angela Albaran.
Hi, my son is Jacob Cruzado. Nice to meet you. For the uniform, I know it's the top. Is there a specific bottom or a shorts okay in the beginning?
Any bottom is fine, and you can find specifics about the Bugs uniform on our website, bugsbrooklyn.org. Because there is a little bit of a dress code, but that just has to do with
the length of the bottoms.
Exactly.
Usually. They must come to the tip of your fingers when you stand up, and keep your hands straight down at your sides.
Okay, thank you.
So when students, I'm looking at the question about speech therapy, Kay. When students enroll, our Director of Inclusion works with families to go through all of the IEPs and make sure that we have all of the people in place. So you will hear from the Director of Inclusion about when services will start for your child if they receive speech therapy.
Great. There's a lot coming up. There's, as you can imagine, many, many questions in the chat. So maybe we can scroll through and answer a few here. Speech therapy will start within the first few weeks. I think Shsat Martinez, our inclusion director, Nicole, will be reaching out. Home COVID tests sold at Walgreens will be acceptable. I will be sending, if there's other questions about the bugs entry testing, I'm not going to answer them tonight because I'll be sending out an email with lots of information, and you can always email me back if you have further questions. We don't know what the boundaries are for out to lunch yet. The 6th grade class size this year should be about between 26 and 28 kids. Anybody can jump in if I'm giving incorrect or we need clarification. I'm just trying to get through as many questions as I can.
These are 8th graders have been allowed to go down Prospect Park West, and that has been the boundary. Students do not go home for lunch, just to throw in a little bit more. But Prospect Park West, the restaurants, the stores on that stretch have been in the past boundaries for the 8th grade that we have let out. The dean and the associate dean are working to fix those details, and they will share them out with you shortly.
Will there be more testing asked by the school that students will do, like on the first day? Janine is asking that. Annette, do you want to answer that?
Is that academic testing or COVID testing?
Is it COVID testing or academic?
Oh, that's a great question.
Let's answer both.
COVID, yeah,
Jump in, COVID.
COVID testing. We will be participating in the DOE's COVID testing program. So once we know what that looks like, last year it was 20% once a week. Although this summer for their summer program, it was 10% every other week. So we will be doing more COVID testing, but I'm not sure exactly what it will look like. Now, academic testing,
So we do, for orientation week, we will be doing our math baseline and our reading baseline. And weeks after that, we will be doing our writing, social studies, science, and sustainability baselines. So we do it in our core subjects. And by the second week of September, we're usually done.
Great. This may be a longer answer, but and so maybe you want to say like we'll answer this later. Can you talk about what the asynchronous and 1 p.m. dismissal days throughout the year will look like? Is that something you can briefly answer?
Yes, we have asynchronous days built in for staff development. That is specifically what they are for. What that means is students come to school at the regular start of the school day, and they are dismissed after lunch at 1 p.m. Asynchronous days means that they will be given assignments by their teachers, and they will work independently on those assignments, most likely in Google Classroom. But again, those are also for staff development throughout the school year.
Great. And people who still have their hand raised, thank you for being patient. I'm going to get through a few more of these questions quickly, and then we'll come back to you. When and how do we find out what class our kids are in? I think you will be emailed that information the week before school starts.
Yes. And I just want to name that typically we do not do this. Kids find out what class they're in the first day of school. We want to make sure that kids are set up for success. So we're going to give you a little bit of a head start in finding out that information, as Kay said, the week before school starts.
What accommodations are being made for 7th grade Spanish since they didn't get Spanish in 6th grade? That's a great question.
Students will be getting Spanish 1 day a week in the 7th grade, and we will have Spanish also in the 8th grade. We did change that tiny bit of our programming this school year. Partly because in considering it, we're sorry we didn't offer this last year, but we want to give students who want to take the Spanish language proficiency test as much of an opportunity to do so in the future as possible.
Great. One more.
I just want to clarify. The curriculum, though, in 7th grade does acknowledge that they have not had Spanish previously in 6th.
Yes, absolutely. So the curriculum will be differentiated to meet the needs of the students and where they are.
Okay. I'm going to answer one more and then I'll go to raise hands. We know how many staff are vaccinated because we have asked them multiple times, starting when they could get vaccinated back in February, up until just as recently as last week. So that's how we're tracking that. We had a lot of good communication. Okay, so Angela, I think we hopefully answered your question. So Elizabeth Meister, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
I think I saw Elizabeth later on.
Can you hear me?
Yep, she's here.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Thanks.
we got you.
I have a few questions. Can you repeat? You said something in the beginning about the 7th grade being remote during orientation. For which parts of that?
New 7th and 8th graders. New 7th and 8th graders. New 7th and 8th graders.
New 7th and 8th graders. Okay. What's the size of the current 7th grade class going to be?
About the same as 6th.
25 to 28.
25 to 28 students.
I meant the overall class size.
Yeah, that's it. 25 to 20. Or do you mean all of the students?
It's 100 to
112.
105. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And why is Spanish being taught once a week? Is that how you usually do it?
That is how we've done it in the last few years, yes.
And you were still able to offer the Spanish proficiency test with once a week?
Students, for the Spanish proficiency test, students have to have 2 years of Spanish instruction. And that is what we are trying to offer, 2 years of Spanish instruction, 6th, 7th. And so they are eligible to take the Spanish proficiency test.
And you consider once a week to be a year? I mean, isn't that with what other schools are doing?
We are offering, Elizabeth, the best opportunity that we are able to offer in our schedule. We do not to diminish the value of Spanish, but we do offer more hours in the core subject areas at Bugs.
Yeah.
As well as the sustainability class.
As well as the sustainability.
Right. Okay.
But there's a lot of support for those that want to take the proficiency exam, and I know that sometimes students also have a Spanish club, and there's more opportunities to dig into Spanish if they'd like.
And way back before COVID, when we were, fifth graders looking to school, there were a whole bunch of different like enrichment classes that you pulled people out and they did different focus things. Am I correct that that's all been dropped?
You're talking about the project block
Yes.
classes?
Yeah.
Yes.
So pivot from project block to
The enrichment
a
classes.
standard offering for all folks with enrichment. Yeah, if you could explain that.
Okay.
So part of it was so kids had a stable option in the curriculum to go to. Part of it also had to do with who we had to offer those services to the students, constant teachers who are employed at Bugs who are able to offer the classes. So it's also based on our programming and our staffing that we are offering the classes that we are offering.
One
So
of the
you
things
can't
that came
staff
up
the
also was that, oh, sorry, Elizabeth, I just wanted to add, we also got feedback from some families that it was hard when in those project block choice classes and the limited size and ability to do it, that some people would get it and some people wouldn't. And it was kind of difficult for those that really wanted the robotics class and they couldn't do it. So that's when we really started to offer consistent enrichment. We were constantly hearing from incoming families and current families how important arts and enrichment was ongoing and that there were consistent offerings that people could count on. So that's why you see studio art all 3 years. That's why you see the technology twice a year. So we took the pieces of the project block, built them into these standard enrichment classes, not as maybe exciting as we might have framed it before, but in response to family needs from before.
Yeah. And Susan, I also want to add that as part of our program at Bugs, it's while we welcome outside entities to participate in our program, we also really value our community that we build with the staff who actually are employed by Bugs. And a big part of the decision was about keeping things consistent and having consistent routines and consistent behavior expectations. And that is best provided by the people who are employed at Bugs and who are trained by Bugs and who are hired by Bugs.
I would love to keep moving. We have a lot of questions in the chat. So we have one more person with their hand raised that I'd like to get to who's been waiting patiently. Sharon Alpert, did you have a question? Give you a moment. Sharon, all right, we'll come back to you. But I would like I said, I would like to go back to
I think we're at Rosa.
yes. Exactly. What is the reason for closing if the DOE does not start on 9/13? Because we recognize that, well, if the DOE closes, that one item would be because the state has said that they need to close, in which case we need to close as well. But if they do not and the DOE chooses to close, we acknowledge that they're a really large system that has a lot of resources and the ability to know things that we don't even know. And so it's just makes a lot of sense to align with them and to be safe. Again, I think there is more of a, I said this today in an internal meeting, but I'm going to say it in public. I think there's a greater chance that we could not open because there's a hurricane and we have so much flooding and it's terrible. That's more likely to happen than not opening because of COVID. I've got to be honest. We have to say we don't know for sure, but we're going to open. It's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. A COVID test is required for the first day of school, even for vaccinated students. Yes, for every single student. Great question. How is PE or gym handled with children wearing masks? That is a great question. Lynette?
Yeah, so we are exploring all of the options for outdoor learning, as I said before. That includes PE. We will be having students wear masks if they are engaging in PE in the gym. That is because they do tend to get close to each other. And safety first in all things, but we're definitely exploring all of our options for taking kids outside for PE and exploring our spaces that are available to us in the neighborhood.
Great. When does after school SHSAT test prep begin?
I can answer that one.
Great.
Thank you, Kevin.
For now, we're gonna start about mid-September, give or take. Just please wait for my email with more details about eligibility and things like that. That will be explored in depth. So please just hold out on the emails and you'll get them soon. Thank you.
I understand that 3 feet of social distance is not available in some classrooms and 6th graders cannot be vaccinated. Is this also true in 6th grade? The main core classes that the 6th graders will spend the vast majority of their time in all do allow for 3 feet of social distancing. But because there are a couple of classrooms where they might be going once a week, like for example, tech, that don't, it is true in some cases. We do plan to optimize our classrooms so that the children who are more likely to be vaccinated will spend less time in the smaller classrooms, if that makes sense, mostly with regards to if there's any advisory rooms that work out like that. Metrocards, I saw a couple of questions. If you didn't relocate, yes, you will still receive them. Basically, if you live more than a half a mile away from school, you will get a Metrocard. And as Kevin said, that's determined by the Office of Pupil Transportation. But most kids get them. And if you don't, it's because you live really, really close to school and the OPT feels like you can walk here.
Okay, I can take the next one. All of our enrichment classes are offered once per week. All of our core classes are offered 4 times per week. Really easy, simple to remember. Enrichment once, core classes being reading, writing, social studies, science, math, are offered 4 times per week.
I'm just scrolling down. I don't know what time the after school program goes to. It used to go to 5:45 or 6. But I'm assuming that you will hear from the after school coordinator about that.
I think actually after school will go to 5:30.
5:30, great. The approach to orientation week, if there are issues or delays in getting the entry COVID test results. That's a great question. I really hope there aren't any because we're going to give you lots of time to do that. And you have 5 days to have the test and get your results. And there are hundreds and hundreds of places all over the city where you can do that for free and pretty easily. But if there are issues or delays in getting that entry COVID test results for a handful of students, we are hoping to give them a spit test out there in the garden and have them be tested anyway. But I really, really hope that doesn't happen. And I encourage everyone to start thinking about where in your timing you could go. And we will accept rapid tests. Again, more details to come. Promise. Brooke, you will know if you're not eligible for a Metrocard because your student will not get them, but that's again only if they live less than a half a mile away. Cell phone policy for kids. Annette,
students are allowed to use their cell phones during lunch. In all classrooms, they are asked to keep them off and in their backpacks. So again, we do not collect them. We do not take them away unless a student has repeatedly taken them out in class, used them in class after being asked to put them away. They will be asked not to have them in class and they might have to drop them off. But initially, they can use them at lunch and only at lunch, and they have to have them off and in their backpacks, put away out of sight during all classes.
The option to go out to lunch will be open to all grades. Yes, Maria. You heard that the school day was supposed to end at 4 because it did used to end at 4. And Wynette, I don't know if you want to address that.
We heard from a lot of families during the last school year about the length of the school day and all of that. And we did adjust the school day to accommodate like the amount of screen time and all of that. We chose to continue with that bell schedule. It doesn't mean that students are receiving anything less than they did in the past. They are still receiving their full academic education. We are just able to end a little earlier. Also, part of our school day going till 4 o'clock was that our intervention program happened after lunch and all kids were involved in different ways. We've chosen to put it at the end of the school day and invite the students who need to be, receive intervention to the intervention program. So that is what makes it a little different. It may still be a little longer for kids who are invited to go to the intervention program.
Great, thank you. The size of the incoming 7th grade, which I think we answered, but right now it's at like 104 kids or so altogether. And Ashley Guzman, I see that you don't have the hand, so did you want to unmute and ask a question? I hope we didn't miss you. I know we were going over, but I feel like we can stay around and keep answering these questions.
I believe her question was about the uniform. Because I see a question in the chat. It was about if it won't, since it's backed up, we'll have loaners available. Excuse me. Just please email me, or the OSA, Dean Damian or Dean Brown.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Leslie, for kids, yes, they can wear a Bugs hoodie over a regular T-shirt as long as they're going to keep their Bugs hoodie on all the time. So whatever they're presenting to us at Bugs needs to be the Bugs uniform. But if they're going to keep that hoodie on, then the shirt underneath can be what they want it to be. Michelle answered Metrocards. Kids in 7th grades, yes, they will be in new advisory groups and new cohorts. They will be mixed up, and 8th grade as well. Elizabeth, I think we answered that. Training for Transcendental meditation for 7th graders. Susan, did you want to take that?
Yes, we are looking at expanding our quiet time meditation program to include not just be restricted to transcendental meditation. The David Lynch Foundation is not currently partnering with schools in the same way, so we're looking at different options and are committed to meditation. We think this is a really important part of our school day, and we've always had it. So we will be having it. It may not be entirely on transcendental meditation. We're looking at other focused meditation. So stay tuned for more information.
So algebra.
Yeah.
So algebra is offered to the 6th graders as much as it is in the learning standards for the 6th grade. It is offered to 7th grade as much as it is in the learning standards for 7th grade. Just to repeat, we use the Math and Focus curriculum, and for 8th grade, it is blended to prepare students specifically for taking the algebra regions. So there is a bigger focus in the 8th grade on algebra instruction, and that is for students who are ready to take the 8th grade algebra. You will hear any questions you have about curriculum. I just want to remind you that curriculum night is in September. I believe it is the 29th. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And you will hear a lot more from the teachers about their curriculum, about the standards that they address. They can answer all of your questions that are specific to curriculum and what they teach on curriculum night. So please attend curriculum night.
All right, I'm going to jump over because I see that Sharon Alpert has raised her hand again. So maybe you can jump in and tell us what your question was. Sorry for the delay. Sharon Alpert, if you want to unmute and ask your question. We can't hear you. I see that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Maybe you could type it into the chat. I apologize. I can't hear what you're saying. Sorry about that. I see that there is reading and math intervention. What about writing, says Janine McGrath.
So reading and math intervention is intervention that happens throughout the school day. So we have different types of intervention that can happen during the school day. That is tier 3 intervention. So the students need really specific work one-on-one or in a small group, and we offer that during the school day. Intervention after school can also be one-on-one or in a small group, but it definitely focuses on any aspect of curriculum, of content, whatever subject area. After school is a little bit of a broader view of what the students need, and we will offer that to them in the after school intervention program as needed.
And Leslie Grossman is asking about how cohorts work for 6th grade. I can give a basic explanation, but essentially once they come to Bugs, they are in their class of, like we said, 25 to 28 students, and they will be moving from class to class for different periods. So they will stay together. We will be cohorting for safety, but they will go from the math classroom, say, to social studies, to writing, to tech, and they will move around the school, and they'll be taught how to do that properly. So I hope that answers your question.
And also, Kate, it's important for people who have not been to Bugs, you don't have a visual of what the school looks like. These classes are across the hall from each other, right next door to each other, around the corner from each other. So the 6th grade wing is bright and beautiful and prepared so that kids don't have far to go to get from class to class, and the teachers are out in the hallway helping them figure out, especially at the beginning of the school year, where to go and who their teachers are and things like that, and cheering them on.
If kids shouldn't come to school for non-COVID sneezing, coughing, how can they stay up with their classwork? That's a great question. And as a working mom myself, I definitely understand that, you know, when your kid is a little bit sick, you have to do that calculus about when it's okay to send them to school. But I think right now, during what is still a public health emergency, in my view, we need to keep them home because we don't want them to spread their germs, whether they're COVID or not COVID. So they can always talk to their advisor and get their schoolwork, and find out what they should be catching up on. Lynette, did you have anything else that you wanted to say about that?
Once we know that a child will be absent because they're sick, what we usually do is try to gather up the work and have the advisor reach out to let them know what they need to stay on top of. But if you're sick, the more important thing, while academics are very important, big important thing is getting rest and getting well. But if you want to work on the schoolwork, we can help you figure out how to get your hands on that.
How does daily dismissal work? Do we sign kids out? What about if they walk home by themselves? So you will have given permission when you enrolled for your child to be self-dismissed. And if they're self-dismissed, then they will be self-dismissed and they will be able to walk home by themselves, or you can certainly come and pick them up even if they are self-dismissed. Kids who do not have self-dismissal permission in 6th grade will be held until a parent comes to pick them up. But usually what happens is students are dismissed in sometimes cohorts or larger groups by grade as we progress through the year, and they understand the procedure, and they walk out the Bugs door and come out onto 19th Street up near Prospect Park West.
And to Monique's question, we are planning to maximize, once we have all of our outdoor spaces available, we're maximizing the use of outdoor spaces for students to eat lunch, including the garden and other spaces in front of the building, so that students can be outside with their masks off and eat outside, as long as the weather permits.
Ruby's asking about a specific pass for leave or not leave school grounds for lunch. We are working out the details on that, but we will be monitoring who has permission and who doesn't. There may be other reasons that a child may or may not be going out for lunch, so we will make sure to keep an eye on that and keep them safe, and they won't be going out for lunch if they're not allowed to. Let's see, you answered Monique. Will PE be indoors or outdoors? I think we answered that. Intervention will be by invitation only. So it will not be an opt-in situation.
Hey, Kevin, if you could hit mute, I think there's a little feedback there.
Will PE be offered more than once a week?
No.
No, in the schedule right now, it's once a week for all grades. School will start, Ryan, if you mean what day and you're a returning student, which I know you are, you should come on Tuesday, August 31st. If you're talking about the time, we are going to open the doors at 8:10 a.m., but we're asking you on the first week of school to come at 8 a.m. and you'll be dismissed at 1 p.m. for that first week of school.
Kate,
yeah.
Can I add something about the dismissal policy real quick?
Of course.
Right. Just for our 7th and 8th grade families, all 7th and 8th grade students are automatically self-dismissed, so we don't update that information. That's automatically done in our teachery system, so no need to do anything about that because they're just automatically dismissed once the time is for dismissal. So it's only for 6th grade. 6th grade, that rule only applies to them.
Great. Thank you for that detail. You're absolutely right. Ashley is saying my uniform is coming on September 4th and school starting on August 30th. It's okay. We'll have loaners for you. You can still come to school. If you'd like to wear a white or a green shirt, you could do that. But no worries. We know that some things are on back order and everyone's getting them as best they can. I think we answered that. Rapid test, yes, is fine for first day admission. We prefer PCR, but we will take the rapid test. And then I'm going to pause because I see that Sharon Alpert, you have your hand raised again. Is that, can we hear you now? I'm hoping. Oh, maybe not. But Angela Alberon, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
No, my apologies. That was an error.
Okay, no problem, thanks. Samantha, 7th graders will be all mixed up this year.
I
Yes.
think what we were trying to clarify when we say mixed up is that the group, the class that your child had last year, they won't be in the same configuration of kids, right? They'll have a different group of peers. Yeah, there might be a few of the same, but they're gonna have a different group of peers. What I was trying to explain is that each class of about 25 to 28 is splitting up into two for advisory. So the advisory group is a subset of the class or cohort that your child is placed in. This was a decision we had to make in order to really reduce exposure and transmission and the incidents that your child might have to quarantine. So it is a subset.
And also that more people will have to quarantine rather than, if possible, a smaller group of kids.
Valerie, no, we don't know when the SHSAT is going to be this year. Your guess is as good as ours. Let us know if you find out. When Jesse is asking about if there's any chance the cell phone policy will be revisited.
Not this school year, but if you are a parent like me who has parent monitoring apps on her child's cell phone, you can try that route and turn it on and off at your leisure. I have done that with my daughter. She didn't love it, but it helped her to learn some self-control with her phone as well.
And are students expected to bring everything from the supply list and carry them around all day, or will it be somewhere they can leave them if it's not a locker?
They will be informed by their teachers what they need to bring and carry around. I'm anticipating that in the classroom, as we've done in the past, some teachers will keep notebooks. If students don't need to take them home, they will keep them and store them in the classroom for use in the classroom like that. But for safety reasons and just, for everyone's safety, we are asking that students carry their own individual supplies. And once we start lockers and they learn a little bit more organization skills, what we have done is encourage kids to carry around their, and again, I'm not promising this, we are still working on the locker system, but what we have done in the past is encourage students to carry around their materials for the morning and then trade them out when they go back after lunch for their afternoon materials. So that is one way that we have taught them to manage their materials. But again, we are still working out some of these details and we will keep all of these issues in mind as we move forward.
Great. Yes, school ends at 2:45 every day now, unless your student has intervention or is participating in the SHSAT prep class.
Or after school.
Oh, thank you. Or after school. Michelle, I think we answered your question. Rapid tests are acceptable for the entry COVID test. And once again, I will be sending out all those details this week, so you'll have time for that. All kiddos who have an IEP, will they be invited to the intervention program? No, I don't think it's necessarily a special education intervention program. They may be, they may not be. It's not necessarily dependent on the IEP. Am I right, Burnett?
You are absolutely correct.
Great.
Go
ahead.
No, I was saying it's based on need. Once we collect our data and we look at it and analyze it, we will see who has the need and who does not. We can't tell you right now that intervention is usually a 6-week cycle. We revisit each student's need at the end of 6 weeks based on the data that we collect to see if they need to continue or if we can invite other students who may have other needs to intervention.
Do students need to carry their Chromebooks back and forth, or can they leave them at school if they have a device at home?
Do you want to do that one, Net, or?
No, why don't you take that one, Kevin?
Got it. As Wynette mentioned earlier in the meeting, for the first few weeks until September 13th, we will be keeping the Chromebooks at the school. After that, we'll be given to the students. They would have to carry it back and forth because if left at school, it can be misplaced somewhere, and then we don't have many loaners on hand, so it's preferably better that they take it back and forth home. Thank you.
And in the event that there's any reason at all, any reason that a student is not able to come back to school that has to do with quarantining or anything related to the pandemic, we really need them to have their devices at home. We want to make sure that all of our kids, whether they have one at home or they don't have one at home, that all of our kids have a Bugs device that have some of the programs that we use. We've had to do assessments, baseline, midline, or interim assessments at home that requires kids to have our Bugs devices in order to do that. So it's really important for them to carry back and forth.
Layla has a fantastic question, which is, does a Bugs beanie count as wearing the uniform? Which I will say, yes, as long as you're also wearing a Bug shirt, you can wear the beanie. That would be great.
Good one, Layla.
A little confusion about 7th grade transcendental meditation question. Is meditation dropped for all? Can you clarify?
We still have quiet time, not transcendental meditation at this time, but quiet time built into our advisory schedule. So as Susan said earlier, we're exploring our guidance counselor, Miss Anna Lee, who is responsible for planning our advisory program and monitoring our advisory program, has been exploring alternatives for quiet time to happen, just as we did with transcendental meditation. Students are invited to meditate or not, but they must be quiet. So it is a quiet period of the day that students can just reflect. If they want to meditate, they can. We will, as we said, introduce options for meditation. It is not transcendental meditation at this time, but it is the quiet portion of our advisory program that will happen every day in advisory.
And our meditation skills, building them in our kids is really important, and we are proceeding with it for all children.
We are getting to the end. We're going to stick around. We're going to get through them all. Millie is asking about other sports team and if they're part of PE or separate activity that you can pick. I think I can say that our PE teacher, Josh Colon, is an amazing and dedicated PE teacher leading our PE team. So while he will not have sports teams in the sense of competing with other middle schools, you will definitely be doing a lot of fun sports with him. And then we also have sports teams as part of the after school program as well. And some of those teams do compete in the PSAL Middle School League that does compete with other teams. So for example, our basketball team 2 years ago competed with MS 442's basketball team, which was very exciting and hotly contested game. And I won't talk about who won and who lost.
Go Hornets! Go Hornets!
And we do not have any idea when we will be getting standardized test scores, unfortunately.
And there is, and there is no entry test that the kids need to take entering 6th grade, Vanessa. We will be doing assessments while they're in school to figure out their different levels, and Wynette can obviously address that in more detail. But there is not any kind of an entry test to get in, to be here, to come to school.
Yes, we are doing our regular interim assessments as we do every year, 3 times a year. There's baseline, midline, and an end line that drive our instruction. We really depend on that data. It has been predictive in the past for state tests. It helps us understand what students need to practice. We are not a test prep school, but we do try to meet students where they are and give them the best opportunities and support as we can.
And I'm not going to address people who are putting in comments that aren't questions, but I do want to say we are definitely noting them. So, we are taking all this under, advisement. We're listening to you. If you want to verify if you gave self-dismissal, so Meredith, that's a great question. 7th and 8th graders automatically, once they get to 7th grade, will be self-dismissed. So even if you didn't give permission in 6th grade, once they get to 7th grade, if there is some huge issue with that, you can contact us and we can talk to you about it. But 7th and 8th graders are self-dismissed. 6th graders, if you don't remember whether you gave self-dismissal permission or not, you can contact Kevin Penalosa and he can verify that in Teacherease. If you are a 7th grader who has never been to Bugs yet, you are going to be remote on Monday, August 30th. So you will be at school remotely. And then Tuesday, August 31st, you'll be in person.
And that's just for a short period of time. It's not for the full 8, 10 to 1 o'clock as the 6th graders are going to be on site. So you will get more information via email that lets you know when you need to log on. If you are in need of technology for that purpose, please let us know and we will be able to provide you with a laptop so that you can be present for orientation on the 30th. You will have to come pick it up, but we can provide it.
And just to clarify the rationale behind that, that was so that the few students that are the newer students, if they were to come and actually be together, they're from different cohorts. And so the next day they would be placed in their cohort and there would be some exposure. So it was best to just have that introduction be remote and then invite everyone in the next day.
Stephanie Crowder is asking for a list of those apps, which I think we referred to with the, what do we have on the website about that? I think we have, don't we have a list of some of the apps that we use?
I think
That
we
the children
do,
use.
right? Do we still, Wynette?
We did last year. Oh, you're muted, Wynette.
You're still muted.
A little bit of noise in the background. We should have some of the apps that we use, but the main ones that we want kids to have the Bugs technology for, they're not necessarily apps, but they may be links to specific programs that relate to assessments or anything like that. And so just being able to make sure that we can address any issues that come up remotely. We can do that from anywhere on a Bugs device, but we cannot remote into your personal device to help you. So there's that privacy issue and all of that involved. We need to be able to provide that tech support if you run into any issues. We've learned a lot of lessons from being remote or whatever during the last year. And a lot of times this has come up. That we had to remote in to help a student. So it's important that we be able to do that.
Another couple of uniform questions. Jessica, a white polo without the Bugs logo. That's okay for the very first week of school if you don't have a uniform, but that is not considered the Bugs uniform. It has to have the logo on it. So I hope that's helpful. But if you're waiting for things to come, uniforms to come, then you can wear that and we will give you a loaner. Stephanie,
the question was about cell phone app monitoring. So the one that I use is called Bark. It allows you to monitor a whole lot of stuff that maybe you don't even want to monitor. But it is called Bark. It monitors different apps on your child's cell phone, allows you to set time limits and things like that. But there are lots of different apps out there, and it's really important that you research and find the one that works best for you and your family. There are lots of good ones, and you can read the reviews and things like that. And some of them actually even work for, for your computers and all that. I believe, is it Apple or Google has a family time app that you can use. So some of them come with apps. You just have to look into your cellular provider and your cell phone, and there are parental apps attached to a lot of the plans out there.
Stephanie, we have no idea when the standardized test from last year will be available. Neither the state nor the city has given us any indication of when those will be coming out. So we'll let you know when we hear anything. Can you wear the Bugs beanie but not a baseball cap in class? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Bugs staff, but Bugs hats were deemed acceptable as of last year, yes?
Because we had to keep windows open, Bugs hats were deemed acceptable. Baseball caps were not. They're not part of the uniform.
An after-school track team. Gina, we haven't had that in the past, but if you are interested, or we have had it in the past. We have had it in the past. I don't know if we'll have it this year. If you are interested in another option, I personally know of one in the neighborhood, so you can email me and I can give you some information about a youth track team that happens in Prospect Park. Let's see. Oliver is asking about the sports teams. That's part of after school. So you should email afterschool@Bugs-Brooklyn. Oh, Susan's way ahead of me on this one. I'm scrolling through. I think we're getting some thank yous, which is nice. Votes for a Bugs baseball cap. I think that's a great idea. We should suggest that the OSA and the PTA add that to the Land's End option.
Okay, I'll answer one question. It's about
Great.
Oliver, so there's a system that the DOE and OPT use. In short, whatever is on file for that student for their address is what the OPT office and DOE office will determine eligibility. That's, as we said, it's up to them to decide. It's not up to us for that eligibility. We can if you have any more further questions, just please email me about the Metrocard. But like I said, it's only whatever on file for the DOE and OPT for that. Thank you.
And I think we're going to try and wrap it up. We've pretty much gotten through all of the chat and we're hitting 7:30. I do want to say there's still more after school questions. There's no application in the sense of anyone can do it, but you do have to commit to make a certain commitment. And that information will be coming out soon. And if you have any more specific questions, the application's on the website. So it's an application in the sense you need to fill it out, but it's not that you won't get in. And email application afterschool@bugsbrooklyn.org if you have any questions, but take a look at the website first because I think there's more information there. I think I think we've gotten through them all. I may have missed one, but thank you guys so much. You're muted, Winnette.
Yeah, how do you change your information in the school information system if you need to? I saw if you want to change your email, is that an email to info@bugs?
You can email info or myself, and I'll take care of it.
I punted it to Kevin. He takes care of everything.
He takes care of all of us.
And
all
I
of you.
accept the drinks whenever you're ready, and it's safe.
I'll
be there. I'll be there. Thank you, everybody.
You all deserve it. You all deserve it.
Night. Have a great night. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.